Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I'm doing a class this morning on about yin yoga, and I'm so happy to be delivering this to you. It's my favorite style of yoga right now, and really great for this particular system of our body called the connective tissue system. So the whole practice will be a little bit different than you usually experience with, say, a bigger moving hatha style of yoga or a vinyasa type style. So looking forward to experimenting with that with you. A couple of things that you'll need. You do need some sort of bigger prop, and I use the bolster here at the studio. You might have a couch cushion or something else like that that you can use from home. If you have a couple of blocks, that's great. You can also use books or whatever else you'd like. And then I'm sitting on a blanket here. So gather some stuff around, and you can take a couple of moments to do that if you'd like, while I just talk a little bit about this practice today. So in this practice, we will be staying and sitting and pausing in poses for a long time. So that's like 3 to 5 minutes today. So it'll feel a little bit strange if you haven't done any kind of yin yoga before, but in the meantime, in the silences where you'll be in the pose, I have a really special treat today. So I'm going to use this small text of the Radiant Sutras, and this particular translation is by Lauren Roche, but it looks just like this if you want to zoom in on it. And he is a lovely philosopher and translator of this really ancient text. So throughout the practice today, I'll put you in a pose. You'll stay there and breathe. I'll show you how to get into the pose, and then I'm going to do a little bit of reading for you just so you have that nice time and thoughtfulness as you're in the posture. So thank you so much for being here. I'm Lucy again. I'm here at 21st Yoga in Salt Lake City, and welcome. So if you would please, just find a place to be comfortable in on your seat. We'll be here just for a little bit. And it doesn't matter which leg you have crossed in front. Just be comfortable. Do feel free to raise the hips up a little bit if you'd like. That's just easier. It gives the leg line a little bit of a downward trajectory, which is nice. So as you feel like it, just come to some sort of easy, comfy position and close your eyes, please. So welcome yourself to your practice today, and just welcome yourself to this new opportunity maybe for a different style of yoga practice, the yin yoga style. So for purposes of this practice, really just allowing your belly to expand as you're sitting and taking these moments to yourself. And in fact, let's all just bring our hands to the low belly for a moment. And as you breathe, feel the low lungs begin to expand so much that the belly also expands into your hands. Let the shoulders relax. So just continue that full breath deep into the low lobes of the lungs, down and into the belly. Let the arms relax and just rest the hands on the legs or in the lap, whatever's comfortable for you. So do take a couple of more breaths just like so. Just continuing that transition into the yin yoga practice. So transferring your attention to the weight of the arms. The eyes can remain closed. And just feel the arms heavy against the legs. So always our bodies are in this state of preparedness, of readiness, right? To move, to act, to be strong, to perform. And so today, we simply release that, let the arms relax, so you can actually feel the heaviness of the arms for a moment. Take another few breaths. And then very gently, if you would please, just bring the hands directly to the heart, cover the hands, close the eyes if they've peeked open, and just allow yourself a moment of intention for your practice. So I love this moment before we begin diving deeper into this practice, where you can just explore what's present for you today. And maybe you'd like to dedicate your hour and a little bit to yourself, maybe to garnering love or support or strength or patience. So take another couple of breaths, just making that personal and intimate declaration to yourself. That's such a lovely gesture. Wonderful. And then as you feel ready, slowly releasing the hands to the knees, and just take a gentle movement in a circle with the torso. So just continuing in one direction for a moment. What you'll notice about this practice is that we don't do a lot of more traditional kind of waking up, warming up of the body. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move through the practice. But we do this nice easy gesture here just to release the spine. Wonderful. Feel the low back a bit. So go ahead and reverse the direction of that circle. It doesn't matter which direction you're going, any way is fine. And still continuing with that softness of the body. Wonderful. Take one more big circle like that. And then as you come around the next time, lifting the heart a bit and preparing for the first of these held yin postures. So as you come up, move your feet forward, and we're going to make our way into kind of this opened posture. The soles of the feet are together. And then let your body kind of move around a little bit to get perfectly acclimated on the lift of the blanket or whatever you have underneath your hips, if anything. For purposes of this first yin pose, move your feet forward. So we do want to have this kind of square or diamond shape made out of the body, the feet, and the two open knees. Then we're going to take the blocks and place them behind the heels. Now, depending on your flexibility, you may want to have 2 blocks on top, maybe 1 block is enough, or you can really stack up your support because we're eventually going to move forward and let the forehead rest upon that block. So take a couple of moments just to find the perfect height for you, and then let your body come all of the way down, resting the forehead on the block, and just experimenting with the perfect height for all of those tools for you. So I'm going to lift myself up, but I'd like for you just to continue to be guiding yourself down and toward the ground here. What you will want to begin to feel is a lot of sensation in the hips, maybe in the low back. So in this style, we really do come into contact with feeling in our bodies. So the goal of this yin yoga practice versus a yang existence, which is what we mostly do in the rest of our lives, right? Yang being very fiery, very lifted, hot, performing, doing. And then the yin style here, we want to be softening, allowing ourselves to surrender our weight to the ground, allowing some depth to the pose. So do let the belly release entirely. Do let the arms release entirely. So maybe we even take the arms behind your body like so. Let the legs relax. So just beginning this first little step into this surrendered style of practice. So if you would please just continue releasing into that pose. Staying in the posture, letting go of your body. And now taking your attention to the breath. So you're in this very humble posture, this bowing, this releasing posture. And in fact, if there was a theme for the yin yoga practice, it would be surrender or release. So if you're just coming into this practice for maybe the first time, do know that it will feel very different than other styles of practice. You do want to let your body go. In other words, we're trying to turn off the muscular system so that we can access the connective tissue system of the body. And I'll talk more about that a little bit later. But essentially, you have these very fierce warriors of the body, the big ligaments, the whole system of fascia that runs throughout your system, and things like scar tissue, some other pieces to the body. But when we have our muscles active and clenching and grabbing, then we can't access that system. So for now, just give yourself a little bit of a wiggle, allowing for this gentle releasing down and onto the block. We will use the props liberally through the class, so make sure that you have enough support under the head that the head can be resting gently on something. In this case, it's the block. So just releasing here. Keeping in mind that the reason we take the time that we do in this practice is because this system of connective tissue is so strong, it's so responsible, that it actually takes extra time for us to access it and to let it soften. The legs, for example, in this pose, and the hips, are always in a state of readiness. They're always always performing. They're walking the miles and cycling and sitting and working. So in order to turn the legs off, it takes a moment of concentration and a little bit of deliberate intention to relax the legs. So continue to do that. Breathing, let the shoulders release. So the head is entirely down. Letting go. And just know that you're here for about another minute or a little bit longer. So taking your time. Bringing the breath into your body. And if you can imagine that there is this wonderful source of the inhale that comes down from the heavens, bathes you in all goodness, everything that you need, oxygen, richness, nourishment. Feel that from this forward folded position. Feel that seeking every cell of the body and making its way into your body through the back, through the skin, through the inhale. And then with every exhalation, releasing, letting go. So there is this sense of dropping in, wading into the water of this practice. So take several more breaths just like that. And as you feel ready, very gently lifting the torso up. So take a moment here to move and stretch in any way that you like. So these interludes between the long-held poses really are the key to the practice. So let yourself move in any way that feels familiar to you, that feels right to you. It might be a reach up and over, it might be a twist. So keeping in mind that the body is only willing to drop into really deep sensation if it knows that it's not in peril, right? So in between these longer held poses, really actively finding something that feels good to your body, that feels familiar, that feels loving to your body. So taking those moments to stretch and breathe. Maybe arching the back. And you can keep your eyes closed for as much of this practice as you like. Take a few more breaths. Be really creative with your movement. So it can be anything from a traditional yoga movement, maybe even a downward dog or standing, to something more quiet, more silent, just sitting. So taking a couple of more breaths. As we set up for the second pose, bring your props forward. So again, if you have something at home and you're kind of improvising through this hour, anything that is a little bit of a lift for you will work. For example, if you have a short table at home or any kind of little prop that's that you can stack up, that's great. We're going to take our legs out toward the corners of the room. Now, for some of us, this is a really tricky posture. It's challenging, right? Because we're coming into the inner leg. So do feel free to pause for a moment now and lift the hips up onto a blanket a little bit higher or anything that feels like it lifts the hips a little bit. It could even be a block if you have one, or a large book. So do let the legs release here. And what I mean by that is just give them a little bit of a shake. Make sure that we're not grabbing or gripping the legs. And then we're going to come forward into a more surrendered posture. So because this is a challenging pose for most of us, you might want to have the blocks in front of you. You can actually prop these up in any sort of creative way that you like. So you can be as high as something like this, where you can fold forward. You can also use any kind of couch cushion or bolster in any other sort of creative way. So you do want to be able to move forward into the pose, but maybe you're actually using that support a little bit higher up, which is fine. Once you come down to whatever place feels right for you, again, let your body sink. So releasing the torso, letting the torso rest easily. And again, that expression, to rest easily in this pose, may not resonate with you, right? Because in fact, we feel a lot in the legs, we feel a lot in the spine in this particular case, in the inner leg, in the hips. So as you come down, do free the legs. So remember, if we were in a different kind of class, in a more traditional yoga class, we would be squeezing the thighs and lifting the heart and drawing the toes back toward us. But in fact, today we're just going to let the legs relax, the toes relax, letting go there, and really allowing for this sustained, easy release of the torso. And then the arms relax in addition, letting go, and just staying. So coming into that pose, letting go. Know that in the posture, you will be in sensation or in feeling in the legs the whole time. So we play a lot in this type of practice with the notion of feeling. So the way that I love to judge it is that we want to be able to sustain the pose safely. And what that means to me is that we can easily breathe, that we can easily stay in the posture, and that we don't feel any kind of triggering going on for our nervous system. So the body is beautiful in that it protects us all of the time, right? So if you go into a pose too deeply, the body will sort of rebound back from that, right? It's unresponsive to that kind of stimulation. So as you come down, maybe taking it a little bit conservatively before you dive very deeply into the pose. So check in with the shoulders, releasing, letting go, and you're just staying in this posture for some time. Know that I will be moving in and out of the poses as we move our way through the practice. So you can just listen to my voice and hear those instructions for descending, for dropping. So let the shoulders go here. Let the belly go here. Releasing entirely. And come back to that image of the breath making its way through the back side of your body. Releasing with every exhalation. So staying in the posture, I'd like to read just a little bit to you from this, one of my favorite of the ancient texts, one of my favorite translations of the ancient texts. So there's a wonderful story about this text. And essentially it is a god and a goddess from the yogic tradition having a conversation with each other about all of life and all that is. And so there is a question that's posed early in this text that is a question about what everything means, what everything is, right? It's this wonderful, esoteric, universal questions that are so lovely from the Vedic traditions. And in this first text, the answer comes from Shiva. Beloved, your questions require the answers that come through direct living experience. The way of experience begins with a breath, such as the breath you are breathing now, awakening into luminous reality. Between any two breaths, the breath flows in, and just as it turns to flow out, there is a flash of pure joy. Life is renewed. Awaken into that. As the breath is released and flows out, there is a pulse as it turns to flow in. In that turn, you are empty. Enter that emptiness as the source of all life. So if you can take the next several breaths in this pose, and your body is just still forward, check in with the shoulders, releasing the shoulders. And for the last few moments in this pose, please move your props forward just an inch or two. You're going to take a little deeper step into the water of the practice. So you may feel more, you may feel that little bit of a graduation, that little bit of increased tension or tractioning in the body. So dropping into that. Take the last several breaths. The breath flows in. And just as it turns to flow out, there is a flash of pure joy, and life is renewed. Awaken into that. As the breath is released and flows out, there is a pulse as it turns to flow in, and in that turn, you are empty. Enter that emptiness as the source of all life. Beautiful. So as you feel ready, slowly, slowly, slowly beginning to come up and out of that pose. Now your body has been there for a while. So walking the hands back gently, lifting your body. Wonderful. And slowly beginning to fold the legs in, moving and stretching. And this is a wonderful opportunity, really, just to close your eyes and feel what it is that your body needs. So the legs have been extended for a long time. The body has been in one posture for a long time. And so here, just closing your eyes and asking your physical form what it would like to move and stretch. So again, maybe it's a twist. Maybe it's something much bigger or grander than a twist. Taking some breaths. Wonderful. So I love these periods of respite in between the big poses. There's this sense of clearing out the body, dislodging any stagnation or stickiness, and just letting that go. So use the exhalation. And I love that reference to the emptiness in the posture. The emptiness as the breath flows out. Maybe just pausing in that moment of emptiness. Wonderful. As you feel ready, we're going to gently make our way over onto the knees. Move your bolster out in front of you. And we're going to approach Pigeon Pose from an entirely different perspective than we do in a more traditional class. So in the traditional Pigeon Pose, we bring a knee forward and set it up. I'm going to say right at the outset, because we stay in this pose for a long time, the option is to take yourself onto your back, and I'll just show that first, where you have some support for your legs and your knees, and so we come into this type of posture instead, okay? So if you're feeling good and your knees are healthy and feeling good, then gently bring your left knee forward and stretch your right leg out and back. Now, the left knee is going to orient toward your left wrist. So I'm straightening the back leg, the right leg, and then I've got this nice bolster, this big support system in front of me. So we'll take a couple of moments to set ourselves up perfectly for this posture. So if you know that your hips are pretty tight, and most of us have that experience, you're going to prop your bolster up in a really nice way so that you have a little bit of lift to your body. In addition, you want to prevent any sort of pain or any sort of extreme sensation in the knee by patting the space underneath your left booty cheek, okay? So here, feel free to move a block underneath that left cheek or your blanket, or if you've got a sweatshirt or something else that you're using at your house, that's great. And then letting your body settle into this pose. So that in itself is really an act of courage, right? So no matter how you're going about it, you do want to feel like like you have a little bit of a safety net as you come down. So that's really important to feel like you've got something catching you. So go ahead and make your way down toward this pose, keeping in mind that we always want to be able to surrender the body. So you're going to be making your way down there. A couple of things to keep in mind. I always begin this pose conservatively. In other words, I always lift the bolster up a little bit higher than I think I need. And that's really a smart way to go, because as we go through this pose, your body will soften and soften and soften again. So as you come down, as your body starts to get into the flow of coming down and softening, then the sensation will become a little bit more intense. So you do want to just make sure that you can let yourself drop that way. So as you come into the pose, letting yourself release, but making sure that you're not, what I call redlining the pose, which means we're not in the very, very deepest, holding on for dear life, gripping, not able to breathe, right? Come down, release the shoulders, release the body, exhaling. And letting go. So you're staying in the posture, breathing into the posture, and really and truly it is the breath where we connect most deliberately to ourselves. So close the eyes and bring your attention back to the breath. Bring your attention back to the breath. Know that you are in this very deliberate hip opening posture. And at any time, if you feel that the sensation that you're experiencing in the legs or the knees becomes sharp or acute or has kind of a stabbing or jabbing quality, then please come out of that pose and take the version of it on our backs, which is also really friendly and nice. Relax the shoulders. Relax the jaws. So checking in with the jaws. And what I love about this particular practice is the chance to renew our awareness with ourselves. So just know that this deep inhale, the deep exhale, very courageous practice. Very courageous to sit and be with yourself, just with your feeling, with your thoughts, with your breath. Lauren Roche in his Radiant Sutras says, the life essence carries on its play through the pulsing rhythm of outward and inward movement. This is the ceaseless pulse, the rhythm of life, terrifying in its eternity, exquisite in its constancy. The inhalation, the return movement of breath, sustains life. The outgoing breath purifies life. These are the two poles between which respiration goes on unceasingly. Between them is every delight you could desire. So, keeping that in mind as you make your way through the next several breaths in this pose, that there is no destination when we sit in the yin posture, right? It's all in this exploration, this willingness to feel, to let go. So take several more breaths in this pose. Do let the weight of the hips become heavier. Do let the weight of the body soften. Take another couple of breaths. And then as you feel ready, coming out of that pose, deepen the breath, and very gently come out of the posture and moving and stretching in any way that you choose. And truly, you can be moving into child's pose. You can even take a standing posture for a moment if you'd like. Really important to just honor where your own body is. So it may be that there's something that feels really wonderful and amazing to you since you've been forward a bit. Maybe it feels great to open up the chest. So take a few more breaths, returning your body to what's familiar. And then as you feel ready, do make your way toward the other side. So again, if we're coming into the traditional version of Pigeon Pose, we'll move the right knee toward the right wrist, extend out through the left leg, and just position our bodies so that we come into a place that we can stay for a bit. And again, that bolster can be higher or lower. You do want to pad the seat so that the body has something to come down upon. You don't want this sitting bone just to be hanging out there in space. So tuck the toes under as you start into this pose. Feel the ball of your foot on the floor. That creates a little bit of nice alignment for you. And then make your way down toward the support. So as you make your way down, take your time, knowing that in this pose, you're going to be there for several minutes. About 6 minutes on the other side is what we did. So really taking your time, knowing that you have plenty of time to make adjustments before you settle. Deep breaths. And with every exhalation, there is the opportunity for letting go. So your right leg is forward, left leg is extended back and behind you. Do relax the jaws, the teeth, the areas at the cheeks, the temples. Continuing with Lauren Roche's description, this beautiful sense of the breath of life. As we enter these turning points, where the rhythms of life transform into each other, the breath flows in, filling, then surrenders to flow out again. In this moment, drink eternity. Breath flows out, emptying, offering itself to infinity. Cherishing these moments, the mind dissolves into heart dissolves into space, and the body becomes a shimmering field, pulsating between fullness and emptiness. So as you're practicing that emptying, that surrender of the exhalation, see if you can imagine that every exhalation carries out with it anything that is stagnant or sticky or confining in your body. So, in my mind, in my own practice, I'm often in this sense of visualizing light coming in with every inhale, a peacefulness coming in with every inhale, fullness of the nourishment that every inhalation brings. And then the exhalation allows an egress, a perfect egress for anything that is ready to be released. So that can be tension in your body, it can be something that's sticky or confining or old. Letting go. So staying several more breaths in this pose. And while you're in this posture, you can feel how the body naturally wants to kind of lift itself, energize itself, stay away from the sensation. So if you can, focusing on the breath, long inhales and exhales, The shoulders will roll inward. And do let the face relax. Do let the belly expand against the leg. Take several more breaths here. And if it's appropriate for your body, maybe graduate the pose just a little bit, taking a little deeper dive into the posture. So maybe pushing your prop forward just a little bit, maybe just reiterating to your body that all is well, even with all of the deep feeling. So coming down, and then as you feel ready, slowly making your way out of that pose. Take your time moving your props out of the way. Very gently moving and stretching. Deepen the breath. And just allowing for that transition into the posture that's next. Take another few breaths. And eventually, we will make our way down and onto our backs and setting up for the next posture. So as you come all the way down, keep your bolster close by. You're all of the way down onto your back. And from here, take a moment just to stretch. You can move in any way that you like. You can feel how your body is balancing left to right. And then eventually, we'll bend both knees. Take your right leg, cross it over the left. And again, in this particular case, we're going to wrap the thighs together, so different than where we just were in the modification of Pigeon Pose. We're going to wrap the thighs together, draw the knees into the chest just a bit, and then lower ourselves over into a fairly deep and expressive twist. So when we come into this pose, from a yin perspective, we know that we're going to stay here for a bit. So we add a couple of nice pieces of support to the pose. For example, if you'd like, you're welcome to use a block underneath your knees as they've moved toward the side. Also, you're welcome to use the bolster as a little bit of an extra weight to the pose. So in other words, you might lay the bolster or the couch cushion across the top of the knee and then open through the chest. So the right arm extends out toward the right wall. And we settle the spine from here. So stay in the posture, please. From this pose, you can reaching the right arm out far and away from your body, and the activeness of that stretch. That's what's most familiar to us, right? So here, go ahead and come into that more active reaching stretch. Open up the right hand like a starfish, but then practice letting go of the weight of the whole right side of the body. So there's this definite heaviness to the right shoulder, to the right side of the low back, to the right side of the upper back. So staying in the pose and just practicing that release. So that's a very interesting phenomenon about the yin practice, and that is this difference between active and passive, right? The difference between this familiar reaching and stretching and opening, and then the passiveness of just letting the weight be drawn to the ground. So just experimenting with that. Sometimes I like to think about the body as having this suit of armor, this coat of armor. And can we just soften just a little bit to let go, to let some of that rigidity, the tension, softly melt away from the shoulder? Letting go. And as you do that, you can feel this column of the spine, this very strong corridor through which all of our messaging travels, through which our entire system is energized, both from an energetic standpoint and from a physiological standpoint. So the inhale creates this wonderful illumination of the spine, and then the exhale allows us to soften. So take another couple of breaths there. And then as you feel ready, very gently coming out of that pose, bring the knees back to center. Take a moment to move the knees side to side maybe, or to stretch the legs out long, or to move in any way you'd like. And then as you feel ready, left thigh comes across the right. Draw the knees in a bit, and then we're going to come into the same twist toward the other side. And just keep in mind, you can move your props over in whatever way you'd like. Maybe using the bolster. Sometimes I also like to use a little bit of extra weight on my shoulder, so I'll show that version here. So in this case, my left shoulder is reaching out and away, left hand and arm are reaching out and away. And then I just place my bolster like a little kickstand on the shoulder, just to add that extra little bit of directioning of my shoulder toward the ground. So stay in the pose, please. Experimenting with that idea that we just spoke about, the passive and active actioning through the body, that reaching out. Do relax the jaws. This is one of my favorite translations in this book, The Radiant Sutras. There is a current of love energy that flows between earth below and the sun above. The central channel of your spine is the riverbed. The streaming is as delicate and powerful as the tingling touch of lovers. Entering here, radiance arches between above and below. The whole attention resting in the nerve, vibrating in the center of the spinal column, tracing this current between earth and sun, becoming magnetism relating all the worlds. So from this pose particularly, you can imagine that drawing upward from above the head, that lengthening of the spine, and then the rotation that we've created in the posture. So taking several more breaths here. I love that visualization of the spine, that central channel of the spine being the riverbed. Deep breaths in, exhaling, releasing. Take a few more breaths in this pose. As you feel ready, slowly uncrossing the legs, take a moment to move your body in any way that you like. So it might be that it feels good to draw the knees into the chest. It might be that it feels good to draw one knee into the chest or the other. And then relaxing your body down, turn the palms up. Maybe pulling something underneath the knees if you'd like that support. Bolster can go underneath the knees. If you'd like something underneath your head, feel free to move something underneath the head and just releasing and relaxing. Let the full body weight come down and onto the floor. And again, if you prefer your moments of final relaxation being seated instead, feel free to take that option. Check in with the upper back, with the shoulders. A wonderful letting go. The roar of joy that sets the world into motion is reverberating in your body and the space between all bodies. Beloved, listen. The ocean of sound is inviting you into its spacious embrace, calling you home. Find that exuberant vibration, humming in all of your secret places, resounding through the channels of delight. Know that you are flooded by it always, rising new in every moment. Float with the sound. Melt with it into divine silence. The sacred power of space will carry you into the dancing, radiant emptiness that is the source of all. Spending several more breaths in that final relaxation, and remembering, friends, if you'd like more time here, be my guest. Feel free to stay as long as is right for you. If you're ready to begin to come toward a little bit of movement, a little bit of a deeper breath, please do so. And as you do, closing the eyes and coming back to sound. Slowly making your way onto your side. Taking your time. Moving up towards seated. Beautiful. Let's join together with the hands at the heart. Thank you so much, beautiful community, for joining in this yin yoga practice today. Thank you for giving such beautiful attention to your hips, your spine, lots of different ways that we can approach the yin yoga practice, and thank you for having this little taste of it today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'm so grateful to each of you. Thank you again. Namaste.